Good morning, everyone. Happy Sunday. Sunday is the day that we are having our special Look Behind the Book feature. And I am so excited right now because I am a hashtag fangirl of the woman that we have on the show today. Her name is Lori Desautels. I'm going to say it. I'm going to screw it up. Desautels. Anyways, I just call her Lori because,
that's
Lori.
Perfect.
Anyways, two of her books, How May I Serve You and Unwritten, you can tell that I didn't like them at all. Didn't find anything at all interesting in here. Seriously, these books I love so much. If you could see the highlights in addition to the flag, you would see that they are very influential in how I address education. And those of you who've been in workshops with me know that I talk about these books, especially this one, I don't know, really resonated with me all the time. And so Lori so graciously agreed to be on the show. I have so many questions for her, but first, welcome and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Joelle, thank you so much for having me. And I truly am honored. When I see those books somewhere else, I just have to pinch myself still because, it's just so exciting to be able to share your passion and just to share this really shift we're seeing in education right now. And as much as the shift can feel negative with more of the adversity and trauma that we're seeing in our classrooms and schools and districts, there's a lot of good news too. And I think the awareness, just by having this conversation is so helpful for all of us, because what we're finding is the science now, the brain science, is really supporting best practices for educators. And that's what I'm so excited about, because when we turn discipline into a science, or when we look at behaviors, through a developmental lens, it not only brings awareness, but it almost eases our anxiety that, even for children, because what you and I are talking about today is what we're teaching children as young as 5 and 6 years old. They're learning about their own neuroanatomy, and it relieves them, to understand that I'm not a bad kid or nothing is wrong with me.
Absolutely.
This is the way my brain has learned to function through experiences. So it's exciting.
Tell me about how you first got into brain science. How did that passion develop within you?
It was, I think it started probably when I was working on my doctorate, and I think when I was doing my dissertation work, I was actually doing a field experience with middle school students, because first of all, I love being in the classroom. That is something that, more than anything, I love sitting beside children and adolescents. And so my work started as a teacher, special education teacher, and I taught children in a self-contained classroom with the classification of emotional disturbance. Okay. So, and when I remember as a young woman, first, second year teacher, thinking, these kids are brilliant. What's going on here? They're just, they were kind, they were fearful. I remember that. They were angry. But I think this work started when I really was doing my dissertation and working with middle school students in 7th and 8th grade in this field experience, and looking at what students say to themselves when things go awry. And that was kind of the basis for, for the work, the research that I was doing at that time. And then it just, I don't know. I mean, I think it was almost serendipitous. I started really delving into mindfulness, looking at Goldie, the Hawn Foundation, looking at the work that she began to do with just teaching again children and teachers. And then it just kind of grew and exploded from there. So it's been so exciting.
I love it. How do current educational systems that are in place either help or hinder student success?
That is really a fabulous question. And I think the intention for all of us is to help. So I think sometimes if we do hinder a child's success, it's not intentional. It's from lack of awareness, and also it's from a place of sometimes fear from the educator's viewpoint. And that fear could be subconscious too, because when you see behaviors that you don't understand, when you see these oppositional or defiant or very defensive, apathetic, unmotivated, when we see these behaviors, we tend to weave subconsciously our own reasoning or story behind why that is. And I think that what has driven my work in the past couple of years, probably 3 years, has been the adverse childhood experience study that was conducted about 25 years ago. And so looking at that study, I think helps educators to really enhance the school experience, knowing that our behaviors are in our DNA. They, you know, we always say all behavior is communication. So I think when educators felt, when they feel a sense of purpose, then they begin to weave those experiences into the classroom and school intentionally, that what we call help a child to upshift in the brain, where they begin to, that stress response system dampens down, and there's almost a portal to cortical functioning. So it's just so much fun to watch. Yeah.
It's funny that you say feel felt, because that's something I say a lot. And so this is a question that I'm just thinking of right now. But when I was working on my dissertation, I was doing it on teacher well-being, and I just found it's the same things that build well-being build employee engagement. Really, it's the same. And it started getting me thinking. In education, we talk about student engagement. We talk about parent engagement. We don't talk about employee engagement. We don't even use those words. And so, you know, you're saying, like, if educators feel felt, if their passion is ignited, right? And so how do you think we can shift? This is my mission, and I'm, now that my doctor's done, it's like, how do we shift education to focus on the people that support students, do you think?
So I think the first step, and I don't mean to sound redundant, but I think that first step is really being informed about the science, and to really understand its role in behavior and its role in well-being, and how the brain is just beautifully and organically created to perform at the optimal level. So that is, that is just so critical to understand. But what I'm learning every day is that these experiences that we encounter moment by moment, minute by minute, actually begin to shape the way that connections are myelinated. So, we see we see connections in the brain that really respond perfectly to the experiences before them. And so, simply said, what I mean by that is that children and adolescents who are living inside very unpredictable environments, where there's always a question about who is going to be there when I get home, who is going to care for me, where am I going to sleep, what does this text mean when I get this from someone I care for. And that's why it's so critical that we understand how adversity, and I don't even like to use the word trauma, but how adversity literally wires up lower regions of the brain. And the most exciting thing, Joelle, is that I'm learning that all achievement gaps are adversity gaps. And I know that's a very generalized statement, but I turned it upside down and inside out, and that's the way I see it every time. It's so much more than poverty, or it's so much bigger than race, or it's so much bigger than even culture. It's the adversity that we all are exposed to throughout our childhood and young adulthood that really begins to build brain architecture, either in very healthy ways or in toxic ways.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're working on a new project with, I'm going to grab this book again.
Yeah.
So on this book, Unwritten, you worked with Michael Knight, and you're working on a new book, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I'm so excited. In fact, I was with Michael in New Jersey this past couple of days, and I said to him, we got to giddy up now. We got to get this book out there. And he's so funny. Both of us you know, are so passionate about adversity and education and resiliency, because that's what this book is about. It's, we all are becoming aware of how trauma and adversity affect learning, affect behavior. But this book not only delves into what that adversity looks like in our classrooms and schools and communities, but now let's giddy up and go and look at the resiliency research and what can we do to repair and heal brain architecture that is sustainable. We're looking at long-term, beautifully complex positive changes rather than just getting a little compliance or obedience. So the working title of the book is Eyes Are Never Quiet.
Ooh, I like it. I'll have to go on the Amazon wait list for that, you know, so I can get my highlighter and flags ready. I love it.
I know. After
do you know when?
So we are hoping, that's what we're talking about. So we are hoping it will be January, February of 2019. So this coming winter.
Nice. So exciting. So exciting. All right. So now I'm just going to ask you some kind of weird random questions.
Perfect.
Are you ready? Okay.
I'm ready.
So question number one is, what fictional place would you most like to go visit?
Oh my gosh. Fictional place. Oh, I've never been asked this question. So I have this fictional place in my mind, and actually I'm homesick for it right now. And it's not, I want to be near salt water and a beach. I just miss it so much right now. To me, I don't know, I've been talking about it for the last several months. So it's really not fictional, but that is where I would like to be and to spend some time. Just by a big, beautiful body of water, and just to be in the sand and just to feel that salt air and that salt water. That's where I'd like to be.
That sounds beautiful. That sounds beautiful. There's something magical about the ocean.
I think so too.
Okay, this is another just odd question. What job do you think you would be terrible at? Like, please don't ever hire me to do this.
Oh, that's so easy. I mean, there are so many. My family would laugh right now, but the first thing that came to my mind is any type of an administrative job. I am just not very good at that. I would not want to. I would not want to be a leader in that sense and to tune into details. That's just not. That's not something I would ever want to do. So that was really that.
Okay. What subject that you don't know very much about now do you really want to learn about in the next year?
So the subject, that's very easy because I would like to know more about epigenetics. It's epi means above the gene, and it is fascinating because Dr. Rachel Yehuda's research out of Mount Sinai is really looking at how our DNA, the sequence of it never changes, but the function does based on experiences. So, you know, environment and relationships and all of the kind of the nurturing aspects of cellular makeup really we are not our genes, I guess is what I'm learning. And that how a gene is expressed or activated is really based on thoughts, feelings, perceptions, environments, relationships. It's a whole new science. And I'm very excited to delve into that in the near future.
That sounds good. Okay, last question. No overthinking, just whatever, because this is a big question. But if you could teach the world just one thing, and the world is listening right now, what would you want them to learn from you?
I would love to teach them. It's kind of so two-pronged. I would love to teach the world how to tune in and to use perspective and mindfulness to really shift and reappraise negative situations. Life is about positive and negative. If we don't have negative, we don't appreciate the positive. So I don't want the negative to go away. That's a part of life. But I would love to give the world and especially children, our future world citizens, the tools to go inside themselves and to really know that how something looks in that moment can shift based on our perspective and based on the feelings and the thoughts that we can attach to that experience, and getting quiet and learning how to use our breath, which is something I work on every day. I'm not very good at it lately, but
me too. And I think like it's definitely a work in progress. So we talked about, you know, in some workshops I do automatic negative thoughts, right? Stomping out the ants. And I tell people, including myself, you know, you'll never, just like the exterminator, you'll never get rid of them, right? But it's a work on being able to shift them, to move them out of the way, and to replace them with more positive thinking.
absolutely, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Lori. I'm going to put links to all of your stuff in the comment box. You have just an amazing body of work. I am excited to see what future things come out of you. And I just appreciate how you're shifting educational systems in our country. So thank you very much.
Joelle, thank you so much for having me. It was an honor to sit beside you on this Sunday afternoon. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Bye, everyone. We'll see you soon. And we'll be looking out for more authors for our Book Behind the Book. And of course, every Saturday, our shout out to Thrive Tribe members. Thanks, and have a great rest of your day. Peace.